Oh me, oh my, this round of GAC was not a good one for me. 2 losses. I don't think I've ever had 2 losses in a single round of GAC. Still can't quite figure out the balance between offense and defense with Galactic Legends. It has certainly changed the landscape of GAC. I find that I'm either holding too much for offense or too little, or I'm just holding the wrong things. I did, however, on a positive note, figure out two pretty, and well, I didn't figure them out. My bosses did figure it out. Two pretty hard counters to Galactic Legends, to both of them. Unfortunately, there are only 2 other Galactic Legends in my arena shard, both of which are Kylos, so not exactly conducive to testing. I certainly still think that Ray, certainly with the ultimate, is much harder to beat than Kylo, so that doesn't help me a whole lot. And it does not help that the preferred Ray counter is really should fall under one of my impractical comp videos on that playlist, because the amount of resources required to take out a Ray Ultimate cleanly, is quite expensive. You're not going to see it here in this video, but you will see it in another video. Yeah, so I'm pretty unhappy with my GAC performances of late, and I'm pretty unhappy with GAC in general. Although the match I had today was a very good one. It was against Buckeye ATW from TI, who is a very, very good player and an excellent account. So I really shouldn't be mad that I lost to that account. But I am still butthurt because I am extremely competitive and am not lacking in confidence generally or pride. The nice way of saying that I'm pretty fucking arrogant. So for me to lose 2 matches in a GAC round is a devastating blow to my confidence. So there are a couple times where I wanted to throw my fucking phone, even though, again, like I said, losing to Buckeye isn't embarrassing because that account is incredible. But I started it out really, really well, and then I just realized that I had not prepared properly for in terms, I didn't diversify my other teams aside from the GL teams, which I defeated rather cleanly. So I just had the wrong shit for what was hidden behind the GLs. But whatever, enough about Star Wars talk while you watch this abortive GAC session versus JediSaber. JediSaber, incidentally, has a number of very impressive scalps under his belt, despite being probably about 400,000 GP in total account size lower than most of the people in our bracket, or in our 80 character range. I believe he has a Buckeye scalp also, as well as my scalp now after this GAC. So good for him, good on ya. He's from a very good friend guild, GSF Alpha. The GSF guys have always been very, very, very good to me. They gave me a tremendous amount of support when I was still a YouTube neophyte. They invited me to their server. I'm still in there. They have a lot of their guys subscribed to me. So I really appreciate the GSF family. I will say, however, that after having been beaten by JediSaber and after seeing that he beat Buckeye, I told him and another guy, another officer, his leader, I believe, Devastator, who's really the guy who plugged me the most with the GSF Alliance, that I was going to steal Jedi Saber from Maul, and I still plan on doing that. So Jedi Saber, although we've spoken about this already, be ready because I'm coming for you. I'm gonna make you an offer you can't refuse. You understand? I'm gonna make you an offer you can't refuse. Enough about that. Time for your daily session with Mandalore on current events. Not much is happening. Some good news is that the New York numbers continue to improve, although they are still quite devastating. Bella was informed that she can get antibody testing at work soon. So that's something that she's going to do, because if she and I think it's pretty safe to say that if she has the antibodies, then I probably have the antibodies, seeing as we live together and she is my fiance. So one would certainly assume that if she has antibodies, I have antibodies. Separately, my mom got the antibody test. She should get those results tomorrow, or depending on when you watch this video, today or yesterday, whatever, Monday. She should be getting the results back, maybe Tuesday. Yeah, our wedding got postponed. What are you gonna do? It was supposed to be June 6th of this year. Obviously, that's not fucking happening. So it will now be May of 2021. Unfortunate, frustrating, a little bit sad. But what are you going to do? Certainly better than violating all the social distancing and like mass gathering rules set forth by the government. And also, I would feel pretty fucking guilty if someone came to our wedding, contracted corona, or brought corona, and other people contracted it, and then, God forbid, someone dies. So don't want that on my conscience. As frustrating as it is to have to almost, not quite, replan everything. Luckily, the venue and the vendors so far have been pretty good. And if they weren't, quite frankly, I would sue the shit out of them. So it is what it is. Stuck one more year with Bella. Or really, she's stuck one more year with me without being married. So she's got to put up with my shit until then. Yeah. I really hope that things start to normalize it comparatively soon. Obviously, we're going to have social distancing well into the summer. The states that are opening up, I really hope that they are still social distancing, if and where they can. I did see a number of articles that a bunch of beaches in Florida and California have been not just open, but extremely populated. So we'll see how that goes. Hopefully it doesn't go too badly. So far, a lot of reports are indicating that far more people, and I've said this before on here, far more people have antibodies and or possible immunity than previously thought. So if that's the case, that should bode well, and hopefully fewer people will become terminally ill. A number of people that have contracted corona and survived talk about it just being like a really bad cold or a really bad flu. So hopefully that is the majority of infections that occur going forward, because we certainly don't want to see more people die. Kim Jong-un, what's happening there? If you haven't seen or heard the news, Kim Jong-un has not been seen in quite some time, and there is some rampant speculation that he might even be dead. So that's out there. I actually hope he isn't dead, because that'll rattle the region quite a bit. Rose, can you relax over there? She's like growling at herself as she's burrowing into the bed. Yeah, I don't really want Kim Jong-un to be dead, because that'll rattle the region, and Christ knows who is going to be taking his place if he is dead or if he is incapacitated. I've seen articles that it could be his sister. Don't know anything about her, obviously, because it's North Korea. We really don't know much about anybody over there. Yeah, so don't really want to see that region rattle, especially right now while everyone in the world is dealing with corona. That'd just be one more thing for everybody in South Korea and Japan to be shitting their pants about. Yeah, that would not be good. A number of people are pretty annoyed at the president for suggesting that maybe people should inject themselves with disinfectants like Lysol or whatever. And yes, I get that that's a pretty stupid thing to say, and it is. Unequivocally is a stupid thing to say. But, and while again, I am not really the biggest fan of the president, I don't think he was serious. He doesn't, his intonation generally is pretty monotone, well, regardless of whether he's making a joke or he's being serious. I genuinely can't tell the difference. But also, if you're not intelligent or unintelligent enough to think that injecting or ingesting Lysol is a good idea, then that's kind of Darwinism, man. I mean, there are literally markings on the bottles or the cans or whatever, everything, that say, do not ingest this. If ingested, contact a poison control center immediately. So, I mean, just because, not to use a cliche, but to use a cliche, if someone says go jump off a bridge, does that make it a good idea? And so, just because someone's serious or not, it's really irrelevant whether the president was serious or not. If someone says, go inject yourself with Lysol, do you really think that's a fucking good idea? Because if you do, then that's really a bigger problem than the president making a stupid comment, serious or not, quite frankly. So, yes, was it stupid for him to say? Of course. Whether it was in jest or whether he was serious, again, it makes no difference. But if you're really stupid enough to think that that's a good idea, then you know what? That's on you. And again, I am really not a supporter well, I'm not a big supporter of the president. I don't want him to fail, as I've said on a number of these videos. But no, I'm generally not a fan of the president. But he is still the president. So, yeah, everybody just calm the fuck down. And don't be injecting yourself with Lysol. Just like you shouldn't be eating fucking Tide Pods, no matter how delicious they look. So that's that. What else? I did see, I really laughed at this, but supposedly ultraviolet sunlight or ultraviolet rays from sunlight can actually kill the virus. I laughed at that when I first saw that. I'm like, that's ridiculous. But apparently there is good science behind it. So go figure. Again, it's like half an hour of sunlight, but apparently it's a thing nonetheless. But if that's the case, then certainly that would lend to the idea that this is or may very well be seasonal, and as we get into the warmer months, we may see it subside significantly. The downside of that is that the southern hemisphere, when we go into our summer here in the northern hemisphere, the southern hemisphere is going to be going into their fall and winter, which means Australia, New Zealand, South Africa, all of those large countries may see a very large or an increase in coronavirus infections. Because make no mistake, they have coronavirus infections now, while it is, I guess, their fall. So that would be unfortunate, because if that ends up being the case, then we could just continually see the virus going from northern hemisphere, southern hemisphere, back and forth and bouncing around until and unless a vaccine is created and approved. Hopefully that is not the case. I do know that Australia and New Zealand generally are very good about instituting rules and laws, and people follow them, despite the fact that Australia per capita probably consumes the most alcohol of any country in the world, of which they are very proud. I mean, Australia's last mass shooting was probably like 20 years ago, and they outlawed recreational firearms. Now, I'm not saying that we should do that here in the United States, because it's a very different country. It's 30 million versus 360 million of a people whose nation was founded on citizens owning firearms and using them to uprise against the British monarchy. So very different, apples and oranges. I'm not going to suggest that that should be the case here. I mean, I own 2 guns myself, but certainly in Australia, they're pretty smart. Incidentally and anecdotally, Australia and New Zealand, I believe, are rated amongst the top 10 least corrupt countries in the world. So that should give you an idea of how they can, get people to step in line and keep people in line, which is quite impressive considering the countries are not homogenous. You look at Sweden, that is almost exclusively homogenous country. They instituted a number of laws, and they basically have kept a lot of things open. They're just protecting their vulnerable demographics, old people, sick people, etc. So it is interesting to see Australia and New Zealand, or what has happened. They have reported fairly low rates of infection, but again, it's still warm for them, so we will certainly see what happens in what is their fall and winter, when apparently this virus may be more prevalent. I have a lot of friends that are Aussies or Kiwis, both in Star Wars, and in real life. I have dated a number of Australian women prior to being tied down to Bella, and I will tell you that Aussies and Kiwis are amongst the best people in the world. So I genuinely hope that they don't see a massive spike in cases, and I hope that everything goes well down there, down under. Yeah, other than that, I'm really fucking sick and tired of being cooped up in my apartment basically 7 days a week, aside from when I drive Bella to work. So much so that I have actually asked my bosses if there is something that I can do outside of the apartment, even if if I'm just driving around by myself all day, that's fine. I'm getting a cabin fever. Yeah. Hope everyone is doing okay. If you don't have a doggy right now, I bet you wish you did, because my doggy is really the one thing keeping me semi-sane right now. So yeah, everybody hang tough, and I will see you in the next video.